Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Narrative for National Schools Network info session. We are so excited and glad that you're here to learn more about the National Schools Network. My name is Candace Cole. I'm the Executive Director of Narrative 4, and I have been with Narrative 4 doing work for the past 10 years. I'm also a former school teacher, and so I used to teach school in Chicago and Sacramento, and so the National Schools Network is something that is just very near and dear to me with that experience. I'm also joined by two of my colleagues, Lee and Allison. Lee, I'm going to kick it off to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Candice. Like Candice, I'm very happy to be here. Nice to see everyone. I'm Lee Keelock. I'm the Senior Director of Global Programs, Special Initiatives, and Innovation at Narrative 4. Like Candice, I've been here for 10 years, so pretty much since the beginning. Um, I have also had a life as a public school teacher in Connecticut. I've taught at the college level as well, teaching creative writing. So I really believe in the power of stories to sort of as a catalyst for change. And I'm very happy to be here and share this new initiative with my colleagues. Allison, over to you.
Thanks so much, Lee. Also very excited to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Lerman Gluck. I'm the Northeast Regional Manager at Narrative 4. I've been with Narrative 4 for 4 years, and just like Candace and Lee, I'm also a former teacher, former ELA teacher, and theater educator, both with high schoolers and community groups all over the Northeast USA. And I'm very passionate about storytelling as well. Back to you, Candace.
So if you're here, you are interested in learning about the National Schools Network, and we're so excited to share some information with you. We hope that you'll learn more about who Narrative 4 is. We're going to share with you about the specific network and then just more questions about the application process. So before we dive into what the National Schools Network actually is, I would love for Lee to actually just share who Narrative 4 is.
So, Narrative 4, the short story is that Narrative 4 is a global nonprofit, and we use storytelling to build arts, to build empathy, connection, and compassion in young people. We began about 10 years ago with a vision that storytelling will build connection and understanding in students, and that with this connection, students will then sort of transfer that into some sort of positive action or civic engagement in their communities, that stories actually lead to driving change. Over the last 10 years, our work has spread across the globe. We're in 39 US states and we're in 35 countries, and we're hoping to continue to grow with alongside people like yourselves. Candace, back to you.
Yeah, so one thing that we really started to hear from educators in schools who were working with us was that this work of really thinking about loneliness and isolation, how we help students and educators really connect, was really, really important. And it was underscored over the past few years with things like the pandemic that had us all on Zoom, right? Feeling very isolated. The US Surgeon General wrote the report about the loneliness epidemic. And so this is something that globally we're seeing as a crisis. But it's also something that we at Narrative 4 believe that our program and our methodology actually helps to really overcome. And so with the National Schools Network, what we noticed was that schools, while they were building community and addressing loneliness and isolation, they also still felt isolated amongst each other. And so as we started to think through what we wanted 2025 and beyond to look like, we thought, what would it look like and mean if we built community, not just within schools, but across schools? And so this is really how the National Schools Network was born, just from this idea of what happens when schools connect who are also really addressing community building and loneliness and isolation. And so Allison's going to share a little bit more about what the National Schools Network actually is, now that we kind of know what the vision is for why we're doing the work.
Super excited to share this with you all. So, the Narrative for National Schools Network is a nationwide network of educators from schools across the country who are committed to utilizing storytelling and the arts to build connection and overcome loneliness in their classrooms. Like Candace said, the point of this is to connect schools who have similar passions with one another because we're stronger together than we are apart. And we're really excited to announce that the first cohort is going to launch this winter. So, those chosen for the network are going to join a community of practice where they will experience the story exchange, which is our core methodology, be trained as a narrative for facilitator, and dig deeper into practices that will allow connection to grow authentically in their schools and also amongst each other. And I'm excited to hear more about the program design.
Yeah. So before we actually move into the program design, I see a few people have joined us. So if you've joined, you can just drop in the chat your name, where you're from in your school. We'll love to just see that and just welcome you in the chat. So what is the Narrative for National School Network? What are we doing? Right? Like, what is it? So as Allison said, it's a network that's starting in the winter. It's a 3-month cohort. And so what we're offering, and this is a fully funded initiative, what we're offering to member schools is the opportunity to build community. You'll receive learning resources, you'll receive story exchange training, you'll develop a lot of skills that you can use in your classroom, with your teams, with your students. Also, we hope that you will do our assessment tools so that you'll see positive increases in things around academic success and behavioral outcomes. But really, this is really about for your team, getting a group of team members at your school to really plug into the work that we do and then to connect with other schools as we're doing this work. There will be a school lead, so a person who is taking on really the responsibility of making sure that resources are distributed, making sure that the team who has signed on to become a part of this network stay informed. And then, of course, the communities of practice that Allison mentioned will be open to everyone who decides to join from your school team. And so we're really excited about this program because it allows for you to really engage with our work in a really consistent way. But more than anything, it gives you the necessary support. That's one thing that we heard from a lot of our past partners and educators is that we really want a lot of support from Narrative 4 as we build this in our school. And so the National School Network will be a 3-month program that really walks you through bit by bit how to do the story exchange, how to train in the story exchange, and then how to really have the story exchange methodology live in your school. And then Allison's going to share a little bit more about the actual design of what that's going to look like month to month.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. So we're going to be hosting in-person story exchanges in cities across the US for N4 NSN teachers to come together from different schools and experience our core methodology in person together. From there, you're going to get a chance to participate in our new asynchronous facilitator training so you can train at your own pace. We know that educators and administrators are really busy, or to participate in a live virtual session to get trained live online with other Narrative for National Schools Network educators. And then we'll also be hosting localized but virtual communities of practice. So maybe connecting a few small communities together throughout the process of the 3 months, where you can learn more, upskill, and connect with other educators from your area, focusing on really interesting skills related to the story exchange and facilitation in general. I'll pass it off to Lee.
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, as a community of practice, we definitely want to create a sense of agency amongst everybody. So it's not just Narrative 4 sort of delivering instruction or giving you resources. We're going to sort of ask on you yourselves because you're the best practitioners in the classroom. So we'll ask you to help lead some of the classroom-based activities alongside us. Anything that is working in your classrooms around skill building, building community, story exchange practice. Your school will lead the work alongside the N4 associate because you'll be assigned an associate from Narrative 4. And, you'll sort of brainstorm together the resources that will best fit the students in your classroom or your school. One additional sort of resource that we're going to give you, or it's a few really, is evaluation. I know that measuring data and impact is really important for schools, especially for administrators, to see the type of learning that's happening. So we're going to give various evaluation tools. They're very quick. So some will be 5 questions to answer. There'll be a pre-survey before you start the whole cohort. There'll be obviously a post-survey at the end, but there'll also be smaller surveys along to sort of think, how are your students connecting? Has it improved connection and community in your classroom? What was the classroom climate perhaps before you started doing any of the Narrative 4 interventions? So there'll be a lot of evaluations. You do not have to sort of recreate the wheel. We'll give you the tools in order to measure impact, and then we get to look at the data together and see what's working, see how it's working. Back to you, Candace.
Thanks, Lee. So if this is something that you're interested in, we're going to answer some questions too, because I know some people have a few questions. We encourage you to apply. We have the application online. It's open until January 20th. If at any time you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but it's very simple. We're really getting some simple information about your school. Like Elise said, questions around climate or things that your school is working on or initiatives that maybe Narrative 4's work aligning with, just to get some more information. We really want this cohort to be really diverse. We want it to really be representative of all the types of schools that exist nationwide, because one big aspect of this network is also how do we connect schools across different lines, right? Private and public and parochial. So we're really excited to do this. The application is very simple. And so we'll be reviewing every single application that comes in. And we encourage you, like I said, to apply. It's open to K-12 schools nationwide. And so now what we're going to do is just field any questions that you may have. Just maybe what's coming up for you, questions that you have that we can answer. We want to give you that opportunity as we kind of think about, as you think about if this National Schools Network is something that really fits for your school. So we'll just give people a moment to maybe think of a question, and you can just drop it in the chat when you get a chance. So one question that I have actually gotten via email that I just want to share with folks is, what's the cost for schools to participate? That's a really big question. The National Schools Network is fully funded thanks to our really wonderful donors. So there's no monetary cost at all to our school partners, including for the in-person exchanges that Allison mentioned. So just want to reiterate that this is a fully funded initiative that we are excited to offer to schools. Leah or Allison, I don't know if there's other questions that you've received that you just want to kind of share out with the group.
I do have one actually, Candace. I was talking to a teacher today, actually in Connecticut. I see one of our participants here is from Trumbull High School. Hi, I'm from I'm just outside New Haven, so pretty close. Um, but the number of educators, we're hoping to get a minimum of 5 educators per school, right? Anything up to about 20. And one of the teachers today was asking me what if they can only get 2 or 3 teachers? And while, the preferred is 5, because we think that it's a lot easier to work with a cohort within a school when you've got other teachers sort of brainstorming alongside you. It's just easier to sort of manage the workload, and we're trying to offload teachers, believe it or not. We're actually trying to offload you so that you can work together on a shared project. Think of it like it's almost like a PLC group, right? A professional learning community. So we're open to options, but obviously 5 would be the target if possible. 5 teachers.
Thank you, Lee. And I see in the chat we have 2 questions around, can you give a little more detail regarding the time commitment? And then do you have cohorts that work with dual language instruction? So I'll talk a little bit about the time commitment question. And so really over the course of the 3 months, the time commitment is around 15 to 20 hours total. And so what really that entails for the school lead is attending the kickoff session so that you get all the materials and resources that you need, scheduling a story exchange for your team. So that takes a few hours. And then we're offering the monthly communities of practice, which will be about an hour. And then additional optional meetings for people to just build community. So we're looking at about 15 to 20 hours across the 3 months. If you are the lead organizer, it might be a few hours over that. If you're, for instance, filling out the application and then maybe distributing that across your team. And so that's just a little bit more about the time commitment. If there's a more specific question though, you can put it in the chat so I can answer it. But that's the time commitment. Like Lee said, we really want this to be very easy to utilize, easy to access. We do not want this to be burdensome for our school partners who are a part of this network. And so we created the program in that way, thinking about just the realities that everyone faces working in schools. As it comes to, do we have cohorts that work with dual language instruction? We do have folks in our bigger network who do dual language instruction. What we hope happens though with this network is that if there are groups of people who have affinity around certain content areas like dual language instruction, we will have the opportunity to create smaller groups where people can support each other in that. But we're more than happy to also connect you with people who've been working with Narrative 4 prior to the National Schools Network around dual language instruction. Another question is, I'm part of a homeschool coalition with a group of parents and educators who are really interested. Can we apply? Absolutely. We want this to be open to all types of schools. So homeschool coalitions are more than happy to apply. I actually homeschool my children, so I'm a part of a homeschool coalition. So yes, homeschool coalitions are encouraged to apply. And then someone says, is this program suitable for schools with students with special needs? Lee or Allison, I would love to just kick that off to you. Just how you've maybe seen schools integrate this for our students with special needs. If you just want to share just how that's worked and the success of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. And Lee, if you want to hop in as well, that's great. So I will say we regularly work with schools that work with populations of students with disabilities or special needs. The really awesome thing about the Story Exchange is that it's incredibly malleable programming, right? There are so many ways to create a story exchange and so many different ways to create activities that support skill building related to the story exchange. And, Candace spoke about affinity groups. That could potentially be an area where it might be nice to connect with other schools doing similar work. And also, we work pretty closely with the educators that go through our programming. And in this network, you won't just be working alone, you'll be working with narrative for facilitators who can help you really think about the best way to provide programming like this for your students with special needs. Obviously, it looks a little bit different, but it looks different in every classroom, is what I would say to that. Lee, anything you want to add there?
I would just add that because we're a global network of educators, that I've seen some excellent programming in Ireland. James Lawler and his crew in Ireland work with a lot of students with various learning needs, and there's no one way to tell a story either, right? Yes, you can tell a story orally, you can tell it through art, you can tell it through dance, you can tell it through comic books. There's a lot of ways to engage various learning needs, and we can definitely get you enough information to help with that.
Thank you. So I think we have answered most, if not all, the questions. Once again, if you have more questions, please feel free to get in contact with us so that we can answer them. And then I'll just hand it over to Allison to close us out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Candace. So thank you all very much for joining us on this live stream. It's lovely to see some names in the chat there. And for all who will be watching later, thank you for watching. We appreciate your interest so much in Narrative Force National School Network and your time watching this video or being with us tonight. We'd love to continue answering any questions that come up for you. So please feel like the lines of communication are open. You can reach out to us at n4nsn@narrative4.com, N4NSN, and that's N number 4, NSN at narrative4.com. And we hope that you'll apply. We really want to see some of your schools come in through our application system. So you can follow the link from the QR code on the screen here, or click the link in the chat to go straight to the application, or email us and we can send you more info. So we look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you very soon. And thanks again.